Let's now move on to the West Bank, where violent clashes erupted in the region, which claimed at least 8 lives in 2 separate incidents. After the Gaza hospital blast, frustration is mounting on the ground among the people, and it's not just directed against Israel. Locals are also questioning their own leadership, accusing them of inaction. The West Bank is administered by the Palestinian Authority, which is dominated by Hamas rivals Fatah and 87-year-old Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Now, 13 days have passed and there is no end to the violence in Gaza. People are demanding answers from their own leader. After the Gaza hospital blast that claimed over 470 lives, the situation has intensified on the ground. Demonstrations erupted across the West Bank. People carrying Palestinian flags marched against Israel's action in Gaza. Abbas cancelled a planned meeting in Jordan with the US President Joe Biden on Tuesday following the hospital bombardment. But as he returned to the West Bank, Abbas was greeted by hundreds of demonstrators marching in Ramallah to express their frustration. And the clashes also erupted between the Palestinian demonstrators and the Israeli forces. 5 Palestinians were killed in clashes with Israeli forces in Nusham's refugee camp. And earlier on Thursday, 3 Palestinians, including 2 teenagers, were killed in a separate incident near the town of Shukba in West Bank. Palestinians held a funeral procession on Thursday for men killed by the Israeli forces in the West Bank. In Ramallah, family members and others gathered at the morgue to bid farewell to dozens of Palestinians who have been killed in the West Bank in the latest flare-up. Meanwhile, Palestinian authorities are claiming that Israel launched a widespread arrest campaign in the West Bank. At least 120 Palestinians have been targeted. This includes members of the Palestinian Legislative Council, leaders, former prisoners who had spent years in Israeli prisons. And according to the Palestine authorities, the number of arrests has exceeded 6,000 cases so far this year. The head of the Palestinian Prisoners Affairs Authority saying that those incarcerated in Israeli jails face starvation and thirst. And joining us in the broadcast this minute is Elijah J. Magnier, war correspondent and analyst with us from Brussels. Thanks very much for being here. If you could just help us piece together the sentiment on the ground and your assessment of the same. There is palpable anger, there are questions, and a lot of concern, which is evident from these reactions and from the visuals.
Thank you for having me. Actually, on the ground, people are extremely angry for what is happening. However, it's not really very new. The only new thing is the intensity of the bombardment. So earlier on in your report, you said about the humanitarian aid to Gaza with a 20 truck expected to reach the besieged and bombarded city. That is equivalent to 1 truck per 110,000 inhabitants. Also on the West Bank, as you also have reported, where the President Mahmoud Abbas is the one taking control, the Israelis have killed 74 Palestinians since the last 13 days. So there is very little presence of Hamas, and the one who is in control is the Palestinian Authority. So the Palestinians really don't know where to go. If they go to Gaza, they are told to go to the south, and Israel bombard them in the south. If they stay in the north, they are bombarded in the north. And the least was the bombardment of the hospital, where the Islamic Jihad was accused. Had the Islamic Jihad had a 500 kilogram of explosive missile, precision missile, that would have won the war on Israel 73 years ago. So this is not really very credible, because such an arsenal is not yet in the hand of the Palestinian groups. So now we live a continuous repetitive dilemma of the Palestinians that are living in a continuous arrest of children, men and women, and people are arrested in administrative conditions without any trial, some of them for the last 20 years. And the Americans have failed in their peace process plan and their diplomacy to reach a peace settlement between the Israelis and the Palestinians, which is something all the Palestinians want. And because of the failure of this policy, this is why Gaza resorted to the armed struggle when President Abbas said,
can I
don't
just
want...
come in there? You know, like you pointed out, and as the voices on the ground and the visuals have been telling us as well, that there is palpable anger. Where is the Palestinian Authority is the question that really emerges as far as the sentiment on the ground is concerned.
Well, I'm someone who lived in more than a dozen wars, and I understand that when there is a war, people are not angry against their leaders because their main preoccupation is how to survive, to seek shelter, to look for food, gasoline, and to see where is the less exposed area.
But so isn't that the responsibility of the Palestinian Authority, and which naturally leads to the people being angry on the ground? And those are the visuals that are there for everyone to see.
But the Palestinian Authority is not able to provide security to their citizens in the West Bank because the Israelis have the authority to break in any camp, as you have reported earlier on, arrest 120 men and kill other 5, and then they can pull out whenever they want, and there is no accountability. So President Mahmoud Abbas is in a position not to protect the citizens that under his control and cannot offer security for them.
Are you saying that the Palestinian Authority is doing its job perfectly well, and there is absolutely no gap when it comes to the aspirations of the people, the concerns of the people on the ground, and the action taken by them?
Yes, the Palestinian Authority is not able to protect the Palestinians in the West Bank, cannot take control of Gaza, even if it is offered, because at the end of the day, Israel, under the title of it has the right to defend itself, can go anywhere it wants in any Palestinian camp, can cut the water, electricity, cut the money on as did with Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank.
Right, but going back to when the assault happened and the days that have passed, since the very beginning, there has, of course, been palpable concern and anger on the ground, but you're saying that what's happened over the recent days is satisfactory and that people have no right to actually express their anger against the authority there?
They have all the right to express their anger. However, people normally in a state of war, they express their anger against those who are killing them, not against who are ruling them. Against the ruler, the anger is expressed after the war. And this is when people think in a cool head and say this person is responsible or is not responsible.
Right, but we've seen the expression of anger taking place during the war as well, and which is what raises those questions. But at the same time, let's just take a step back and also talk about the way in which Jordan and Egypt have refused to accept the Palestinian refugees as Israel continues those retaliatory strikes. What do you make of the steps taken by the two countries and the statements that they have issued?
Well, Secretary Antony Blinken went to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, and all three refused a second exodus of the Palestinian, rightly, because in Jordan, a long time ago, when in 1948 the Palestinians fled their home, they went apart in Jordan, apart in Lebanon, and apart in Syria. And in Jordan, there were arrests against the King Hussein at that time of Jordan. So he doesn't want really more Palestinian than the Jordanian in his country, and he already has Syrian refugees, more than 1.5 million. In Egypt, the President Sisi rightly said, if you move them to Sinai, saying that this is temporarily, then the Palestinians will want to return to their home. You're going to do exactly as 1948, and then you will accuse them of terrorism, and then you will accuse me as the president of Egypt of not controlling the border, so I have to fight with the Palestinians. No, thank you very much. You keep them there. And the Saudis said to Antony Blinken that you have committed to a peace process and you have an Oslo agreement on the table that Netanyahu said he doesn't recognize. Right. You are responsible to bring back the two-state on the table.
Yes, those have been the reactions that have been coming in, and we have been breaking them down for our viewers as well. Thanks very much, Elijah, for joining us on the broadcast and helping us with those perspectives. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.